man, Eric Crocker. You see what you laughing at, Crocky?
I'm just listening. I mean, I'm just listening, man. On
You
the whole
can't
thing
do
with
that.
Devontae Adams,
You can't do that.
Crocky, you can't go pushing people around like that.
you can't. But man, get the hell out the way, man. Like,
I knew Eric was gonna say. I knew he was gonna say. He was trying to. He was walking across. He's like, "Oh, let me get across before Devontae come through." Devontae
nah,
damn near
man. You
stopped
wait.
him.
Anywhere I've been, all right, whatever. Let's say I'm walking somewhere and there's a marching band or something. You let the marching band go by. You wait, and then you go. I
Mhm.
don't know how he didn't see the players walking off the field, but and again, I am not defending Devontae Adams in the sense of like he's right. Like, no, you're wrong. You push the guy to the ground.
Mhm.
But almost like I talked about on Locked On 49ers, almost like the Jordan Poole thing. Like, you got to take some accountability for how this thing played out as well. Dude was in the way. Like, get out the way. Players walking off the field. People are frustrated. Uh, then you just walk out right in front. And I don't think initially Devontae Adams saw him. I don't. It's not like Devontae Adams saw a dude coming. Oh yeah, let me time this up to where I can see him and I'm just gonna push him. Like, nah, it was dudes walking. He kind of bumped Devontae Adams first. Actually, you can see it from this other camera view. He kind of bumped him first a little bit, and then Devontae Adams, and not intentionally, right? He didn't intentionally bump him,
Yeah.
but you know what I'm saying? It's like, bro, get out the way, bro. And he just
Well,
fell over. That's unfortunate. Now he's about to sue and all type of
well,
other stuff.
look, I was about to say he's gonna take accountability once his neck brace and wheelchair comes in, so he can get on. Yeah, I was dead wrong with the.
And I see somebody in the chat say, "What does Poole need to take accountability for? For talking trash. Anywhere, any walk of life I've been in, anywhere I've been, wherever. You talk trash, you got to know what comes with that. And it might just be banter back and forth. It might just be trash talk back and forth. But at every level, every team I've been on, every team, there has not been one team, whether it's professionally, collegiate, whatever. Not one team where there wasn't fights in practice. Not one team. I haven't been a part
Like
of
full on
one team.
fist fights.
What? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the opposite, Crocky. I ain't never been on a team that fought,
Really?
and we were successful. Like you're normally you hear that and you're like, well, y'all must have never won nothing. We were a good team, and
Man,
we didn't fight. I ain't never
I,
seen fights like that.
I was on the Jets, and there were a couple players. And I mean, it wasn't even going. It wasn't just fists and blows and stuff like that. They were talking about shooting each other and stuff, and they meant that.
God, jeez.
Like, yeah, it can get now. When
Man,
you trash
Crocky play
talk, here's my
football with
thing.
Gilbert
When I say,
Arenas. That's crazy.
oh yeah, some crazy, some crazy dudes. When it comes to Jordan Poole's situation and Draymond Green,
Mm,
when you trash talk, again, just gotta know what comes with that. So if you're not prepared for what comes with that, then at some point when you see somebody getting like taking it to a certain level, you just gotta shut up.
mm,
And if you shut up, it squashes all that. All right, man, this dude tripping. I see him on 10. I'm not trying to meet him there, so I'm just gonna be quiet now. And just be
right.
quiet, and you'll be good. And he did. Now again, Draymond Green's wrong. Don't knock your teammate out, but there's a certain accountability. Like, Poole, you got to shut up.
Mm,
And like, dude invade your space a little bit, a lot of bit. You
yeah.
push him to, hey man, get out of my space.
Right. Right.
And when you put the two hands on the chest, again, not saying he's like, he didn't put everything into it, but you put the two hands into the chest, you low key got to be prepared for what potentially can happen next. And I think there's this disconnect between eras there,
Mm-hmm.
where I think a lot of these younger kids, I say it with my son. My son, he be talking crazy on the basketball court. He real light skinned. And I'm like, bro, like
Hey,
the way you be talking and stuff, you kind of got to be able to throw hands. And I think these newer kids, you know what I'm saying, they don't grow up really like that, right? It's more AAU basketball
Yeah.
and all that. And my son doesn't even understand the concept of somebody might bomb on you. So you got to be cool or at least understand what might happen.
Mm-hmm.
And Poole was almost like he didn't really understand when the trash talking and all. Like, I don't think he knew it could get to that level. I knew
Right.
it could.
Right.
y'all
He
make
told me to
like
shut up.
y'all make light skinned dudes overcompensate for stuff, man. A lot of that behavior is your
I,
guys' fault.
I see people saying, "Oh, Crocky's wrong. Croc's wrong on this." Listen, I might be wrong in your world, but in the world that I grew up in, wherever that was, at every single level, I'm right in that world. So
Mm,
whatever world you in, like, yeah, I might be wrong. The world that I grew up in and the world that I played in, I'm not wrong.
So let me ask you this though, Crocky, because we talking about. I understand everything that you're saying, and you may have a different outlook because you've seen it happen in a certain way, but there's a certain how do I say it, security maybe in your team practice. This isn't going up against an opposing player and you guys are talking trash to each other. It's your teammate. It's supposed to be your brother. And you shouldn't, like, you wouldn't, my thought is you wouldn't expect it to come to that.
I'll say this. That's my teammate. Not all teammates like each other.
Mhm.
It's like, bro, we work together. Like, so when we leave here, I probably not kicking with you. I'm not calling you to hang out. You know, some teammates are closer, some locker rooms are closer.
Mhm.
But I mean, we saw Fred Warner and Brandon Ayuk go at it, right?
Mhm.
And it's like at some point, maybe Fred Warner and Brandon Ayuk, maybe they're not tight like that. One guy plays defense, one guy plays offense. You don't know what kind of led up to that or whatever. But when it's about to go down a little bit and you just might be frustrated or whatever, I'm not saying it's right. Don't nobody think that, oh, Crocker is saying violence is the key or that's right. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying it does happen. And that's the part you got to be prepared for. So when I talk about Poole, I'm not victim shaming or anything, but when you're talking like that, you see clearly somebody's visibly upset. If you aren't prepared to potentially throw blows, then you just got to shut up.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. You're saying be prepared. Be prepared. Like that's
Be
Keep your hands
prepared.
up at all times.
yeah.
Protect
Be
yourself at all
prepared.
times.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to meet somebody at that, just shut up. And I promise, and it won't happen. It would never happen. Like, just shut up. You see Draymond Green tripping, you know what I'm saying? At some point, you just got to shut up.
No, you're right. You're right.
You're listening to D'Lo and Casey on KIFM West Sacramento 98.5 FM, KRX QHD2 Sacramento, ESPN 1320, driven by last year's Elk Grove Dodge, always live on the free Odyssey app. Another unfortunate part of sports, Crocky, are injuries. 49ers suffered some big ones this weekend. What's the impact of Emmanuel Mosley's absence moving forward?
I think it's huge, man. And you kind of look at this list of injuries that the 49ers are dealing with. And I think right now the 49ers are on this 2-game winning streak. So you look at that and you're like, oh, man, 2-game winning streak. Everything's flying high. You just blew out the Carolina Panthers on the road. Like, that was a huge win for the 49ers. You scored 37 points, get it scored from the defense, and everything's great. But then, man, you start looking at that list of guys who exited that game, and you start with Emmanuel Mosley. I think that's huge. Nick Bosa. You lost Jimmy Ward again on really a special teams. The opening kickoff. You lose Jimmy Ward. That's tough. You already don't have Armstead. You don't have Kinlaw. And it's like, man, these things just start kind of piling up and you try to figure out how can the 49ers work around it. But, started off with Emmanuel Mosley. And first of all, I feel bad for Emmanuel Mosley, just like the human element of it. A guy who started off on a practice squad, he gets activated, breaks his arm in his first action, and then he comes back. He has to work his way. Eventually, he ends up playing after Witherspoon and Verrett get hurt. And he earns a contract, or kind of this little small extension of 2 years, $10 million. Small for NFL, not for us. And then this year, I feel like he was playing at a level to where this offseason, like, man, I'm about to cash in $14, $15 million a year. And then you have an ACL injury. So that part, a guy who has had to battle through so much adversity, going undrafted, all that, working his way in, and he's worked so hard, and then for that to happen, I feel bad for him for that part of it.
Nah, I feel you, man. I feel you. That was tough to see. You laid out everything that was going on in the future in his career, money wise, and everything. But he was having a hell of a season. Like right now, I had to pick 6 in the same game, so it's tough to see. Where do you think the Niners go from here? I've heard people talking about Jason Verrett. I love Jason Verrett's story. I love, him fighting back. I don't know, man. I don't know. So I don't know how I feel about Jason Verrett stepping into that spot. Can Samuel Womack play outside, or is he a slot guy?
No, he's definitely someone who could play outside. You look at him and he's short in stature, right? He's only 5'9", but he has, long arms. You see the quick twitch to change of direction. He has the long speed. Those things definitely align with someone who can play outside. He played outside at Toledo. He was a guy who led the conference in pass breakups and plays on the ball. So he has tremendous ball skills. we've already seen his playmaking ability from the nickel spot. He forced a fumble coming in on the play against the Broncos on the outside. So I definitely see him as someone who can potentially play outside. Now, what the 49ers going to do, that's the part I'm not sure, because I thought, oh, man, Mosley's down. Okay, Womack's going to come in on the outside. That's not what happened. It was like Womack came in, he played in the slot, then they moved Lenore outside. So I'm a little confused what they're doing there, but I do like the thought of Womack playing on the outside. I think he'll do a good job. And we look at the height, 5'9". I mean, look at guys like Jason Verrett. He's a tremendous outside cornerback, and he's only 5'9", 5'10", so I think he'll be all right.
At what point, man, is it too much though? Like, you've been on that defensive end, you lose Emmanuel Mosley. You got Nick Bosa now dealing with a groin injury. You got Eric Armstead dealing with the foot. Man, like, Crocky, these injuries are starting to pile up.
They are, and I think when you see it, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and there's some injuries on the offensive side of the ball, right? You lost Elijah Mitchell already. You lost Trey Lance. You lost Trent Williams for a little bit, and we know Trent Williams, he'll be back shortly. But trying to overcome some of the things that's going on the defense, I think you need to be maybe a little bit more aggressive offensively and kind of put it on them, right? They've leaned on the defense a lot to get to this point, and I think now it's time to be like, our offense, we got George Kittle, we got Deebo Samuel, you got Brandon Ayuk, you got Jeff Wilson who's running the rock, you got Kyle Juszczyk, Juwan Jennings, all like y'all got to make plays now. We need to put points on the board, because there is a chance that there's some kind of drop off when you're losing, missing 5-6 guys on start. I mean, we haven't even mentioned Azeez Al-Shaair, right? Because it hasn't been noticeable, but you're missing so many guys. Now, offense, you got to go into this game thinking, all right, we got to put up a ton of points to help out our brothers who might have somewhat of a drop off.
Yeah. You mentioned a name in there, and it's kind of random, but I wanted to get your perspective on it. Juwan Jennings. I mean, he's like the third down god right now. You know what I'm saying? It's third down. He gets open. He gets a big play on third down. And he seems like, I know you went to training camp and we've heard practice reports. He's like a gamer, right? Like, it doesn't seem like he practices very well, or training camp, like, it looked like, he's not playing very well. But you get him with the lights on, and especially on these third down plays, he gets open every time. How valuable is that to this offense when you already have studs like Samuel, Kittle, and Ayuk?
I think that was kind of the Kendrick Bourne role, right? Kendrick Bourne come in, third down. Kendrick Bourne might be silent. First down, second down, but at some point, third down, red zone, like, he was going to make a play. And I think that's kind of what Juwan Jennings is doing here. He's kind of building that type of rapport to where it's like, hey, I might not run the best routes, but he runs good routes for his size and what he's good for, which when he breaks on that out route, his body, having that big body like that, it's hard for defenders to get around. So he can win with positioning, catch the ball, and then we see what he does after the catch, right? I think there were 2 times there on third downs where he caught the ball short of the sticks and then ends up, picking up much more yards than what was there to be had. So he definitely has that type of ability. I think his last year there at Tennessee, he led the nation in college football in yards after catch. Between him and Brandon Ayuk, they were like 1 and 2. So you see him bring that ability to the NFL level. I don't know if that's something where you can like count on to be like super consistent, but definitely consistent enough to where you can get him a little bit more involved in the short area.
Yeah. Did you see any improvement on the offensive end?
I think they ran the ball much better. You look at the previous 2 games, whether it's the game against the Broncos, even the game against the Rams, they didn't run for 100 yards. I don't even think they ran for like 90 yards in those games. And each of those games, there was like that one big run, and then not much after that, maybe like 2 yards per carry. And then you kind of fast forward to the Panthers game where they did have some big runs, but then they had another big run. Then they had a 15-yard run. Then they had a 17-yard run. I thought that was one of the best games they've had rushing since the first half of the Bears game with Trey Lance and Elijah Mitchell.
Yeah. I want to see the injuries stop, Crocky, because I feel like this team is starting to hit their stride, and I would hate to see injuries derail that. And that's what could happen, because you can't just keep losing starters every week. Like, they've done it every week this season so far. One of their starters has gone out, and I like to see them hit a little bit of a health streak here, because I feel like the team is starting to rebound from a controversial start, or a lot of things going on with the quarterback and all this other stuff. And it feels like they're starting to find their groove a little bit. And I'd like to see, especially on the offensive end, these guys, stay healthy and create that cohesion a little bit.
You would like to see it, but not everything goes according to plan. And, well, I mean, we saw this 2019, right? Where the 49ers early, it was like, okay, everything's good. And then they kind of hit a rough patch where they had some injuries on the defensive side of the ball. Lots of guys like D Ford, and there were some other guys, and Kelly Witherspoon, which right now I know is like Witherspoon, but at that time he was a starting quarterback. First three games, he was playing at an extremely high level, and then you had to figure out how to get by without him, and guys had to fill in, and it really turns into a next man up type deal. And if the 49ers can continue to do that, then I think they'll be all right. But I do agree with you from the sense of how much can you count on that. So to me, I got to look to my big dogs. I got to look to my stars. And I mentioned them earlier, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. All right, it's on y'all now to kind of carry this team through this rough patch. And I think they have the ability to do so.
Yeah.
So 1320 49ers analyst and host of Locked On 49ers, Eric Crocker. Crocker, we appreciate you as always, my man.
That's man. Yeah, busy dude, man. He makes time for us every Tuesday.
I appreciate y'all, man. Appreciate y'all.